Welcome to What Do You Know podcast. This podcast was created to inspire, to open up those sparks and invite us to what do we each know. Now, my guests come from all around the globe, have experienced, have created, and brought different things into this beautiful world. But what if their journey is just there to be an inspiration for what it is that each of us actually knows? Some of our topics will be about the planet, businesses, money, creation of wealth, relationships, and so much more. And we invite you to listen to this episode of What Do You Know? Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Do You Know? Our new podcast. I'm so excited that we are launching with one of my new friends, Ronit Zimmer from Rozana organization. And this podcast was really created to bring the voice of what is really going on in the world. These magical people who are creating not just businesses and organizations, but empowering people locally, empowering people globally to have a voice and to know that another possibility exists. Now, each of us has our own gifts. Each of us knows so much more than we actually realize. And I'm here, Lale Hancock, ready to bring the voice of all of these magicians out here so that the rest of the world knows about them too, and also see what contribution can we be to different activities, different events, different things that are going on around the world. So today, my beautiful friend Ronit, I'm so grateful to have met you a couple months ago and learn more about you and Rozana. So can you just tell everyone out there more about you and what started this beautiful organization?
Okay, so thank you, Lale. I really feel privileged to be here and honored to share Rozana and our work with the world. So as Lale said, my name is Ronit Zimmer. I'm the CEO of an international health diplomacy organization called Rozana. Rozana was a little girl, a Palestinian 9-year-old girl who fell from the 4th floor of her building in a village outside of Ramallah. Her mother, a journalist, made contact with the Israeli authorities, and through coordination between Israeli and Palestinians, her life was saved at Hadassah Medical Center in Jerusalem. When our founder, Ron Finkel in Australia, heard about this story, he was just totally overwhelmed by a number of the components. One, the fact that this little girl's life was saved, this Palestinian little girl's life was saved by an Israeli doctor in an Israeli institution. He was inspired by the coordination between the Israeli and Palestinian authorities to be able to transport the Rozana to Israel. And then I think most of all, he wondered why Rozana couldn't go to the emergency room in Ramallah. Why is it that she had to cross a checkpoint, cross a border, and come to Israel? So when he established Rozana, we looked at 3 kind of buckets of activity. One was treatment, and particularly of children, and providing access to healthcare for Palestinian patients. 2 was this idea of transportation, and again, an issue of access to healthcare, which really is a human right. And 3, and fundamentally, how is it that we can address these health development gaps in the Palestinian health system and do it in a way where we build trust with Israelis? And more than that, have an environment where we can train locally and then stay local, rather than, training a doctor or a nurse somewhere far away in the US or in Canada or in the UK, and then for them never to come back to then contribute to the Palestinian health system and create the kind of health system that the Palestinian people deserve. So these are the foundations of Rozana. I've been involved first as a volunteer, and then now more recently in the last couple of years as CEO. We have 8 projects in the field, all of them empowering Israeli and Palestinian physicians, psychologists, nurses, allied health professionals in being able to provide the best care for the patients in the region. And every single one of our initiatives has both an Israeli and a Palestinian partner. So, inspired by the events of Rozana, we instituted a transportation program. It's called Wheels of Hope. We have a network of Palestinian and Israeli volunteer drivers, as well as buses that we implement every single day that provide access to healthcare services for Palestinians within Israeli borders, so at Israeli hospitals and at the hospitals in East Jerusalem. Most of our programs deal with capacity building, and then we have a very, very special program called Women for Women, where we have trained a small group of women, young women, allied health professionals, Palestinians in their early 20s. We have a midwife, and we have nurses, and we have a nutritionist and a physiotherapist and a psychologist and a GP. And they go out to the rural areas in the West Bank and provide primary and reproductive healthcare services to the women living in these small villages that do not have access at all to healthcare. They live in areas where transportation is extremely difficult. The political situation makes life almost unbearable. And the cultural predicament whereby women are just, unfortunately, at the bottom of the rung. Women are never the protagonists of their own stories. So their healthcare gets derailed, and women can give birth to 12, 13, 14 children and never see a doctor. So our Women for Women project goes out to the same villages and communities every single week, making sure that we are delivering healthcare, that we are collecting the data so that we begin to understand the levels of health of women and children in these areas, providing preventive education. And all of this is supported by Sheba Beyond, which is Sheba Medical Center in Israel, Israel's largest hospital, supported by their virtual hospital. We've invested in remote care tech, Israeli remote care tech, that enables us to provide real-time care if necessary with the gynecologist at Sheba. It enables our midwife to use an ultrasound and have the gynecologist in Dura or in Hebron, plus the gynecologist in Sheba and Ramat Gan, have a look at the patient in the field in real time. And we've provided them with Datos Health tech, which enables us to really collect the data to understand the levels of health. And what we've been able to do, we see nearly 2,000 women every single month. We understand that diabetes and gestational diabetes is an issue. We are now sending in September, the Women for Women team will begin a diabetes intensive training with Sheba. And so essentially what we do is we listen to the issues on the ground. Now, during this latest war, which is just ongoing and absolutely horrific with tragic consequences on the ground, the women in our communities, have been so scared for their children, scared for a number of reasons, scared for their safety, scared that they could potentially get involved in terror, and they were just needing a first aid course just in case, just to give them that extra bit of self-confidence that they would know what to do to deal with their children. So that's what we did. We had 3 weeks of a first aid course that we provided the communities in Idna, women, and we continue to do that. So our team listens to what's going on. We never impose our projects. Our partners are all willing. We have partners from across Palestine, from across Israel. Rozana provides that agency, but the willingness and the resilience of our healthcare partners to continue to work together despite the war and despite the trauma and despite the tragedy has been extraordinary.
Yeah. And I have to say, I'm so grateful that I got to meet you. I got to meet more people from Rozana, through the initiatives with the United Nations. I mean, what you guys have created really is the core of what we say. What do you know? It started from what seemed like one of the most devastating things for this mom, having her child fall, not knowing where the resources are, how to receive the care she actually required. But that seed opened the door of a different conversation, And I would love to focus on you a little bit too, because you are such a big gem in this conversation. And, you said, yes, I raised my hand. I'm going to lead this. So tell me more about what was it for you? Because, a lot of times we may have a lot of experience from different things we've done in life, but then there's so many things that are these unpredictable moments. We have no idea what to do. So what got you to say yes to being the leader and actually bringing all these initiatives together to really create collaboration?
I was brought up in Melbourne, Australia. I spent my childhood there. My father is Israeli. He left Israel after once the right wing, considering today's right wing, it's really not right wing, but the rightish wing came to power in Israel at the end of 1977. I was born in the beginning of 1978. So I was brought up in a home that was, kind of political, right? And looking for peace and justice. The other kind of home I was brought up in was a home where the doors were always open. So we had a house, my parents had a little business, and through their business, we had a house that was full of, the most, when you talk about a multicultural Australia, I mean, that's what we had. We had, Greek Orthodox, and we had Egyptian Muslims, and we had Seventh-day Adventists, and we had Indian Hindus, and our house was always filled with really the spectrum of what is so beautiful about Australia. And my parents, they were just full of respect. So every interaction that I witnessed was just founded on respect, both of them, my father and my mother. And I think that it's just something that I, was so fortunate and so privileged to see and inherit and engage with. By the time I was 15 or 16, the Oslo process, which was a peace process, started. The peace process between Israelis and Palestinians. The then and late wonderful Prime Minister of Israel, Yitzhak Rabin, was murdered on I think it was the date of my English exam in my finals. I remember that very, very clearly. And my father woke me up at 5 a.m. and he said, "Come look at the news." And the question was, what is going to happen with this peace process? I'd written a paper on Jericho being the first city in historical Israel homeland that was conquered by the Israelites. It was also the first city in the Oslo peace agreements that was given to the was given for the Palestinian authority and sovereignty. So I had already had this mindset of, let's make peace because we're all here together. We have a shared history in so many ways. And shared culture in so many ways, that by the time I wrote my thesis at university, I studied law, and then I continued on to write a thesis about the legal implications of the laws in Israel and in Palestine. At the time that they have a draft basic law. Here in Israel, we have a basic law. Neither country or state has a constitution. And I looked at the impact of these laws on women. And then I wrote for my English class, I wrote a post, I don't know what I called it. I must have been a post-feminist story about the leader of Israel being Professor Nomi Chazan, and the leader of Palestine being Professor Hanan Ashrawi, and they were together in Oslo creating a new peace agreement. And it was a very intimate story. And I think it's just been part of me kind of pursuing peace and pursuing relationships, it's just part of who I am, and it's just been part of my upbringing. So when I moved here to Tel Aviv 22 years ago, it was a natural progress for me. I did my MA. I started to work at the Paris Center for Peace. I was the head of a department that dealt with youth projects in the Mediterranean. And it just kind of continued. So really, I've been working in peace, considering the current climate, not very successfully, but working in peace for over 20 years now, and I think the people in Israel and the people in Palestine who are working in peace and working for peace and who are respecting one another and recognizing the other and recognizing each other's histories, not trying to reconcile them, just recognizing them, their values for peace are resilient. And we're not few and far between. What is probably unique is that there are not a huge number of opportunities to really get to know somebody who lives in the West Bank or in Palestine. And this I've been privileged to be able to do, even on the 1st of October. So when the war broke out on the 7th of October, on the 1st of October, I was in Hebron. I was hosted by the heads of 3 major hospitals there. I had a wonderful meeting with a big non-profit organization, another organization that works in health. I'm a vegan. They went and made sure that I was being fed vegan food. I was the only woman around the table, yet there was so much respect and so much desire to cooperate for the betterment of both of our people, and especially in health. Health is very, very unique because health, the doors are open. You're already starting with a population that has an inherent level of empathy, a doctor, a nurse, a nutritionist, a psychologist. So to bring them together to help their populations and to learn together and to work together and to cooperate and to consult with one another on different issues is almost natural. So even throughout my over 20 years of peace building experience, just the last 5-6 years working in health, it's been a different ball game because the doors are always open in health, and it's very interesting and very different.
Yeah. And thank you for this, because I travel all around the world and I get to meet so many incredible people, different backgrounds, different religions, just different perspectives. And we all are asking for similar things, it might be in a different language, but hope.
Yeah.
Having hope, having that moment of kindness and gratitude, and knowing I have someone that I can call on, I think each one of us, no matter what country we're from, there's been moments that we required that picking up the phone or hugging someone and knowing that, hey, everything's going to be okay. And since I found out about your project, and I'm so grateful to Harris City, I have to put that out here. I got invited to be part of you guys, the conversation about what can we create, what can we really be together to unite so that people know that there's other possibilities available. And, also highlighting the voice. I love to highlight the voice of the doctors, the nurses, the psychologists, the nutritionists, all the people behind the scenes that make Rozana actually successful, that, they're usually not on camera, but it takes a whole village really to be able to do this. And I would love it if you can give maybe, like some words of advice of people that are watching this all around the world, because we all are a gift for different things. We each know something, and we know many, many things. What's that inspiration, or what's that advice of wherever they are to be able to, empower themselves or empower others? Like what's that nugget that you would share with them?
I think you said it, Lale. I think the fact that we enrich each other. What one of the things I love about our global team, but particularly our local operations team, is that we are Jewish, we are Muslim, we are Christian, we are Druze. And our diversity is what makes us strong, because we enrich one another. So it is, yes, we can empower ourselves, but we are empowered when we're working together. And I think that really is what the power of Rozana is. It's looking at what we have in common. So, we have this commonality or this common factor of health. I'm a doctor, you're a doctor, I'm a nurse, you're a nurse, right? But then we bring in the diplomacy and we think, okay, we have tension, there are disparities, whether it's in the health system or in the economic system, or in what you have and what you have access to and what I have access to politically. How can we get to know one another in order to understand each other and to bridge those divides? And I think it's exactly what it is. We empower ourselves by empowering each other, because we enrich one another with our diversity. And we've gotten to the point where we don't even notice what your background is or what informs your identity. I mean, we're all coming in with very unique identities, with very unique histories. We are not saying let's reconcile. We don't. Let's just understand, and let's be there, and let's find our common interests with understanding where our tensions were before. And I think that's the nugget. The nugget is the diversity, the understanding, and the respect. I think, yeah.
Yeah. And one thing I want to really highlight is the diversity of ages that you're working with. You've got the young 20s, but you've got people with so many different varied skills. And I think one of the things that's most important in leadership and anything else in the world to be successful is that it's not about one type of person. It's like you said, the diversity part, but also that age diversity and how each of us bring different unique things to the table. I have a program called Leaders of Tomorrow. We mix even 8 to 100 together because we all can learn from each other. So is there anything else you want to mention about your diversity of age there too?
Okay, so I'll add that in. But so the way Rozana operates is that we work at the institutional level, we work at the professional level, and we work at the grassroots. Now that kind of provides exactly that age spectrum that you're talking about, because at the grassroots, our buses are filled with children who are going 3 times a week to dialysis. And just being with them and their mothers who are with them on the buses, then you have as you mentioned, our 20-year-olds who are our allied health professionals in the communities in rural West Bank. Then you have residents who are training for ATLS. Then you have the administrators that are working together at the institutional level. Then you have the nurses who are, again, have an age range from early 20s all the way up to 60s and 70s. And all of these people and all of these personalities and all of these professions and all of the historical diversity and the identity diversity just enrich the programs.
Yeah, I love it. And tell us, I know that you have different arms for fundraising, different ways people can support. Can you just give me maybe a couple of things that people can be aware of?
Okay, so we're an international organization. As I said, we have an operations team here in Israel and Palestine, but we have affiliates in the US, in the UK, in Canada, in Australia, in Switzerland, and in Germany. Our affiliates are always looking for volunteers to come and help. Obviously, we're always looking for resources. We are never resourced enough, although we do have the trust of sovereign governments like US and like the UK, where we receive funding through USAID and FCDO and others, and Johannita in Germany. But if look, even just this idea of sharing stories about health diplomacy, you don't have to live in an awful conflict like we live in here to understand the values of health diplomacy. It's enough that you live in a rural part of the US and you have to travel 2 hours to get to a hospital in the city, that the disparities already exist, and disparity creates tension. And so the application of health diplomacy, which Rozana is now pioneering, it's something that it exists, in every corner of the earth. And I just think even just all of us sharing stories about health diplomacy can really spread the word, and we can all get involved that way.
Yeah. And below, we're going to have lots of details. We'll have lots of links, fundraiser links, as well as ways that you can connect with Rozana, whether it's social media or the website or anything else, to learn more. And again, the purpose of this podcast was really, how can we highlight what people know and really where people are making change that is there for each of us, but all of us. I mean, planet Earth is our mother. And at the end of the day, we're all family, however you carve it, no matter where you were born. And what can we create that ends up being this contribution for all of us? So, Ronit, thank you so much for everything you and all your teams around the world are creating and truly leading. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Lala. I really appreciate it.
And thank you guys for watching. And if you have any questions, please put them below and spread. Who can you share this with so that we allow the Rozana seeds to just keep flying all around the world and getting greater contribution for all of us. Thank you guys for being here today. Thank you for being here for this episode of What Do You Know podcast. We're so grateful you're here. If you have not yet subscribed, you can subscribe below. And will you contribute to assisting us in spreading this out to all others who may be looking for it? And comments below. Let us know. What did you think of this episode? What contribution has it been for you? And also, what topics would you like to hear about? We look forward to hearing from you today and in the future.